Even if you can
All
just
right.
get us forward. Well, thank you so much for joining our Valid Questions webinars hosted by Certiverse. If you are not yet familiar with Certiverse, we'd be happy to tell you about us at any time that you would like. But as a general summary, we're just an end-to-end certification development and delivery platform boosted by AI to enable you to create and launch certifications in just unprecedented timelines with the amount of rigor that you would get from any other platform. So we'd be happy to discuss that further, but this is not a Certiverse commercial, so we will move on into our discussion today. I'm Andrea Brown. I am the Director of Brand and Content for Certiverse, but I will be, guiding us and moderating as we discuss with these two testing experts. And we will start off and have Ree introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ree Kent. I'm from Atlassian, where I lead the certification and credentials program. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ree.
Thank you, Ree. And I'm Ruben Garcia. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Certiverse, and I'm excited to also be a part of this.
All right. I'm going ahead, Ree. Right, so we'll just do basically a Q&A format. We'll move things forward, and please feel free to put your own
No,
questions in discussion. You can either put those in the chat or in the Q&A section. You can decide how anonymous or not you would like to be at that point. We'll keep an eye on that and get to your questions at the end. And there's something absolutely urgent we need to break in for.
hey, Ree, not to be rude or anything like that, but I know most of the world knows about Atlassian, but it would be good if you can, there might be somebody out there who does not know who Atlassian, what
Sure.
Atlassian is. So it'd be great maybe if you could tell us a little bit about Atlassian.
So Atlassian is a software company that was founded in Australia, and it is loosely agile project management software applications. So it's for collaboration. It's an AI first company. So the products people might be familiar with are things like Jira and Confluence, Rovo,
Mhm.
Jira Service Management. But we have a pretty diverse tech stack. So I hope everyone's heard of Atlassian. We've been around for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Atlassian's incredible. We're a big fan. We've been using Atlassian since day one. So, just really quick, what's the around the certification program? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Actually, I'll answer this first question by telling you a little bit about our history. So the program started in 2016, and our first credentials were for certifying our administrators. So those are the people who configure the applications. And our primary audience was our partners. So partners are
Mm.
companies around the world that will come into a customer site and help them install back in the on-prem days and configure and also do some training. And while there's great value in credentialing the administrators, it's less than 1% of our user base. So about 2.5 years ago, we introduced a new set of credentials that are for our end users, and that greatly expanded our reach to get more people engaged in the continuing learning and getting a credential. And then about 6 months ago, we introduced another tier of our credentials that are a low stakes exam. So those are unproctored and they're free, open book, and those are also for end users. And those have proven to be wildly successful. So this direction has been very intentional that we're trying to engage our customers in ongoing learning with the reward of earning a credential. And then part of that strategy has definitely been our work with Certiverse. And a big factor in our success has been the candidate experience. It was really important to us that our candidates have a seamless experience in both registering for and taking the exam, whether it be proctored or unproctored. And overwhelmingly, we have heard back that people really like the experience, and it's definitely made it easier for people to earn a credential. And then, of course, we have a lot of internal metrics that we use to measure success.
Mhm.
But I would say we have the two that are primary for me are that in preparing to earn the credential, that drives people to learn new skills, to learn new patterns of working, new habits. Because a lot of times what I'll hear from candidates is, I learned something completely new by preparing for the exam that I was completely unaware of that, one of these apps could do or a different way of working. And that's always, really heartwarming to hear as someone who very much values ongoing learning. And then, of course, the second one is that when someone sees that someone holds an Atlassian certification or credential, they trust it, that it represents something that's current, that's meaningful, and valid.
I agree with you 100%. We have a team member who just came on board not too long ago, and we thought like we were getting so much value out of spaces and some of the other Atlassian products. And then she came on board and said like, you this is what you have set up is like primitive, right? Like you're not using any of the new features and stuff like that. And she completely redesigned our whole entire Jira instance, created company-owned projects which have more features, which we didn't even know, to be honest with you. And then like integrated so much into our workflows, and it's completely that her knowledge of the platform is incredible, and it's completely transformed our software development process. I mean, it's pretty wild. And now she's like, she's incredible. So I'm like, can you please do this also for our legal procurement and everything else, all the other projects. So she's done a lot of consolidation, but I would say that
Yep.
in general, having somebody who's very knowledgeable and knows all the features, it's game changing from getting value from a platform like yours.
It is. The Jira in particular and Jira Service Management are highly configurable. So the art of the possible, that is super important to recognize. And that list of features and capabilities, it just grows every day. AI has just exploded in what our solutions offer. So I'm excited that you guys are using Jira,
Mhm.
obviously. But yeah, that's always good to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
We love it. All right.
Okay, yes, technology. So my mantra has always been culture, process, tools. One supports the other. So your tools support your processes, and your process support your culture, your people, your ways of working. And it always has to go in that direction. A tool will never force a new process, and it will never change your culture because people will always, perform in the way that is most productive for them. And I think that Certiverse has been a key piece in our success in supporting that strategy of the tools supporting our processes and our culture. It is the absolute backbone of how we've been able to scale our credentials without compromising any of our rigor. And moving to the Certiverse platform has really shifted our energy from spending a lot of time with manual deployments to more automated deployments, and that we can dedicate more energy to the actual exams, to the designs, the analytics, and the continuous improvement. So an example of that would be maintenance, which is an ongoing thing. Anybody who works in credentials know you have to first create an exam and then you have to maintain it. And we're able with Certiverse to have a much shorter and tighter maintenance cycles. And this is twofold. One is for our psychometrics, so the performance of items that we need to touch on if something is not performing well. And then, of course, our ever-changing technical landscape that Atlassian is, they're always developing new ways to use the apps. So those cycles have gotten much, much tighter, which is made our processes so much simpler. So we really appreciate the flexibility that Certiverse offers, especially in the exam delivery mode. And, our intent is that one day we just get to the point where maintenance is just ongoing, not that we don't have special projects to do any kind of maintenance. And then, of course, the other part of technology couldn't have a conversation about technology without mentioning AI. And we are very invested in using AI for not just our ways of working on a day-to-day basis, because we also use the Atlassian stack internally, but also for exam development. And, that comes with the typical caveat that anything that we have that's AI generated, we verify it both internally with our team and then, of course, our subject matter experts as well.
Quick question on that. Have you seen I think, I know you mentioned your growth, your pivot around changing your certifications and creating different credentials for end users. Has that like, that growth, I would say, is that been a part of the technology and making it easier for you to like launch these new certification exams?
Oh, absolutely. Certiverse has been a huge part of us of our ability to construct and deploy an exam very quickly.
Mm.
So we've been able to think about, okay, we want to do a new exam for some set of features that Atlassian has developed, and we can have that out the door where people are taking the exam within, a month or two. That we're just, obviously that also is dependent on our intro cycles, but Certiverse is very supportive of that ability to quickly turn things around. And that includes things like if we wanted to do something special. So, as an example, we have a very large, our semi-annual team event that we have in the United States is coming up in less than 2 weeks. And as part of that, we're actually going to offer a credential just for people who attend. So, anybody on the
Wow.
call, if you're coming to Team 26 in Anaheim, stop by the community booth and you can take an exam and earn some swag. And we couldn't do that without Certiverse. They have made you have made that possible for us to have that flexibility.
That's great. Thank you. And I think one of the things I would say, like just technology in general, and this is one of the reasons why I love talking to customers like you, because you're also a technology platform, and you understand how technology can change, and really expedite and really like allow you to scale, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that we see and that we tried to be very disciplined about everything that we build in the platform. And we're now over the past year we're really trying to focus on just eliminating any friction that will allow a customer, or slow down the public the launch of a certification exam. Really, that's really, and it's been crazy because there's like this little inner struggle going on at Certiverse right now, because we want to maintain psychometric rigor,
Yes.
but at the same time, we also want to make it easier. And we're having a lot of discussions around AI and all of that internally, but a lot of the features that we've been implementing, they also go through a very rigorous process, an R&D process where multiple psychometricians evaluate it and say, yes, this can be used to be, we can use this technology, we can use this AI to actually eliminate this friction point. But I feel like a lot of our customers are getting so much value from all the automation, all the technology, and like your program, we're seeing a lot of our customers just their programs just skyrocket once they move over from a legacy vendor, they move over to Certiverse, and all of a sudden they have 10 certification exams and 50, or they have the program that they've always wanted to build basically, and their
Yes.
community just increases. Not 100%. Not it's like sometimes it's like 20 times, which is really crazy. So it's really great to hear success stories.
Yes, we've definitely seen exponential growth since we've moved to the Certiverse platform. So thank you very much for being our partner.
Yes, thank you for believing in us. So we appreciate that even more.
Oh, this is such a good question. It's particularly interesting in how our tech stack is growing in the age of AI. And we make a very deliberate effort to make sure that our credentials, whether they're existing or new, include something about AI. So for those of you who are familiar with Atlassian, that's Rovo is our AI
Mhm.
engine. And I would say there's two parts to this. One is that Atlassian's tech stack is growing, and so at one time we had apps like Jira and Confluence, and they were integrated, yet they were really considered separate. Well, now Atlassian is presenting those as part of something that's known as the Teamwork Collection, which also includes Loom, which is our
Mhm.
video tool, and Rovo, which is our AI. And so, in response to that, my team is going to develop a credential for that. We're going to have a teamwork collection credential, and we'll have more as for some of the other collections. But it's really now we think about not so much what app do we want to cover as what use cases, what skills do we want to cover as part of the exams. And all the documents that I'm reading in the industry today it's really about skills. This is
Mhm.
becoming even more important than experience because your experience of what you could do 6 months ago may be obsolete in the age of AI. So the ability to be continuous learning and adoption for AI, and then of course actual skills and soft skills as well. And so that drives a lot of what we do for our, what we have in our catalog. And then the other factor is that the other side of that is how do we decide when a credential no longer fits? So our ongoing maintenance includes looking at our existing credentials and say, do they still fit in that strategy? Are they still adding value in the age of AI? And sometimes it might be, well, we're going to take this existing credential and convert it from a high stakes to a low stakes exam and add some AI as part of it. Or we might just decide, you know what, this credential has served its purpose and now it's time to retire it. But I would say that our mindset is that a credential isn't just a set of content. It's not a content container. It's really a promise that we are offering a way for people to validate their skills and knowledge as part of the Atlassian ecosystem. So every credential has to have its place in filling that capability gap for our customers.
Do you think that are you seeing I guess as technologies, quickly changing within the Atlassian platform? Because I saw the Robo certification and that came out like out of nowhere. And the other thing about that is that I see so many people getting certified on that because I see, like
Yes.
if you look on LinkedIn feed, it's like I've just earned my certification. I just earned my certification, but it seems to be like that one seems to be taking off. How do you like? Well, how I guess like do you have do you have like a roadmap for retiring other credentials and like how far ahead are you thinking about from a roadmap for just launching brand new credentials?
So we do all of our planning in fiscal years, and our fiscal year 27 starts in July.
Mhm.
And we try to do a year out, but I always take that with a grain of sand, a grain of salt, knowing that what we're predicting will happen could change in 3 months. So we do have a plan of which credentials we're going to retire and which credentials we're going to build and which credentials we're going to update in the interim to add more of those AI features. So we definitely have a roadmap. And as I've said, this is the beauty of Certiverse is that we can just quickly pivot to say this one we're going to retire and maybe offer at a reduced rate. We have one of those coming up soon. And then, what new credentials do we want to provide as our tech stack changes frequently.
Yeah, I think that's the one other thing that I mean, for successful certification programs where you're creating these credentials and you're combining them like you're saying. I think
Mhm.
one of the important things is to be able to, there's a lot of organizations that are really good at this, including yourselves, but it's good to experiment, right? Because sometimes you might be missing a big part of the market, and then you put out a credential, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, people want this. People
Yes.
really like this credential. So the ability to be able to not have to pay publishing fees and to say, you know what, let's just launch this
See what happens.
and see what happens and changing the
Yep.
pricing. And I know like we have a lot of the other customers that do promo codes
Mhm.
and that's also very interesting, right? Because then you can gauge demand. Maybe it's just a pricing issue, but it's not a demand issue. So then, it lets you kind of experiment around that as well and to figure out, where the right price and the right market is for that sort of that credential.
Yes, and I would say, and along with that, one of the reasons that we use promo codes was if we had a arrangement with an enterprise customer that we were trying to drive some learning paths along with credentials, we could give them that promo code, and then we could
Mhm.
track how many people at that company are actually consuming our learning content and the credentials. Another really great feature in Certiverse.
Very cool.
Excellent. Before we get to our last question, I just wanted to point out that we have one more, planned to discuss. So this would be a great time if you have something you'd like to ask Ruben or Ree, or put into the chat. We can get to that after this next one, which is
Okay, yeah, what's next? The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. I guess first of all, I just want to say that our growth it's due to these two fantastic teams. They're great people we work with at Certiverse, particularly Dea. Got to give a shout out to Dea and to the Atlassian team. So Charity, Christian, Murillo, Zeragina, I don't know, some of you might be on,
Mhm.
but we just have these fantastic teams that work great together, and the technology and people have just come together so well. So that's been a huge factor in our success. So our next chapter is really about making credentials more adaptive, more accessible and connected, and of course, continue to be tied to the Atlassian customer success. So we're looking at some things externally facing. One of them is we're going to have, more of these low stakes credential exams like Rovo, which I encourage Ruben, if you're interested as a Jira
Mhm.
user, you might want to look into taking that credential. But those have proven wildly popular, so we're hoping to do more of those. And then we're also going to look at performance exams. So as opposed to a multiple choice exam, someone would actually do a hands-on exercise. As an example, for an administrator, that might be, we'll give them a business case, some requirements, and say, okay, now go construct this. And then that will be graded. And then for an end user, it might be a set of tasks that you have some upcoming projects. So show us how you would use Rovo to construct your Confluence page, and then how you would use Rovo to take that Confluence page and turn it into Jira work items. So that will be our performance exams. And then we're also looking to add credentials as part of our live learning. So Atlassian has live learning available, public classes, and we're looking to do two things with that. One is add those low stakes certificate exams as part of the course, and then also do a hands-on deliverable for the courses that we have with labs. So that would be where you take a course, and as part of the course, at the end of every learning session, you go build something in a lab, and at the end of the day, you have some deliverable, and you would get a credential for providing that deliverable. And then internally, we're always looking to improve our ways of working, and part of that is how we utilize Certiverse. So things like promo codes, vouchers, how we can construct blueprints and JTAs and the surveys. And of course, reporting. So we're really looking to expand our reporting capabilities. Certiverse is going to be a big part of that. We find that the reports in Certiverse are very, very easy to navigate. They're great to filter, to get your data, and in the rare occasions when you have to export, that's pretty simple too. And then I would say our last objective coming up is that we're looking to simplify our renewal process. So the way renewals work today is someone earns a credential and then it's valid for 2 years plus 3 months. And to renew, you either attend some Atlassian event, and that can be a global, a local, or a virtual event, or you complete some of our on-demand learning. But today, all of those processes are manual, and we're looking at a way to
Mhm.
automate those renewals. And of course, we're going to utilize AI as a teammate. So I would say, in summary, our next chapter is about making credentials that integral part of the customer journey. So we really want to help them to build those skills and habits that will enable them to deliver value via our apps.
Those
Very
are a lot of
exciting.
plans.
Yeah, a lot.
I
It's never a dull moment at our with our team.
I do like the evolution of, like I think your program with, your multiple choice exams and, evolving it to a performance based exam. That's really interesting because we see a lot of clients that do that once they establish they have their program, they can, then they have the ability to then, enhance the certification program and do things that are a little bit more engaging and interesting, I think, but that
Mhm.
is interesting. One of the
Yeah.
things I will say though is I know we, like Neil and myself, we talk to a lot of clients. Dea, of course, a lot of our clients provide a lot of feedback, and we use Jira for collecting a lot of that feedback. But I think one of the things that what we're trying to do, and we're very passionate about is really trying to help our clients like evolve their programs by not having to having to spend all of this time around the design of the exam or the JTA or like the all of the tasks that just take a long time that suck up a lot of time. And we see programs where they come in, it's three people, they're running a managed unit certification program, and then once they start using Certiverse, they can I feel like their time is elevated and they can focus more on strategy, right? They're not
Yes.
like focusing on publishing exams and all that stuff. And then they can start thinking about, okay, how can we make this bigger? They can start taking those calls from business units and from partners like, hey, we wanted a certification exam, can you build this for us? So
Mhm.
I think like I know, I feel like, because you always get criticized like, oh, you're using AI to like eliminating this or eliminating that or that role. And it's just like, we're really not. We're really trying to like get the people that are in the platform to empower them more to be able to really focus on their certification program and not focus on, the
Yes.
criticality of the criticality of a JTA or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And we actually had that recently where a development team from Atlassian that manages an app called Forge, which is used to build apps within
Mhm.
Atlassian Cloud, they reached out to us and within a matter of months we had a credential out for them. So it's exactly that. And Certiverse is a huge enabler in our ability to turn that around and do things like the JTA, the
Mhm.
MQC, the blueprint, do those things very, very quickly.
Yeah, well, we're excited about, I know you've been a great partner and we're excited and also all the feedback that you've given us around making the event platform better, and all
Yes,
that
we're
stuff.
not
So we're
shy.
excited. You're not. But we're definitely gonna, we're rolling out a lot of new stuff. So we hopefully that's really going to complement, your strategy, and that's going to help you, continue to grow your program.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that, especially the events. Events are, quite a bit more work than people anticipate, especially when you get to the
Yes.
proctoring piece, because you still want to maintain that rigor, right? We still want to have the standards of that someone who earned this credential went through all the proper channels, and we don't have to worry about somebody faking their ID, and that
Mhm.
they really have demonstrated that they have the skills that the exam calls for. And events are a place where people like to do those because it's almost a carrot to drive people to come to this event, and you'll probably get some swag or food or something as an encouragement. And by the way, you're also going to take an exam. So we're super, super excited to hear about what's going to happen with that, with events.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, we did have a question come in, which I think actually is a great segue from the from events as well, because it was asking, especially a little bit going back further as the program is getting started, how do you influence or market that community value and building the credibility and value of the certification as it's getting off the ground?
Well, we actually have the wonderful fortune of having a built-in community already for Atlassian that evangelizes our program. So a lot of our SMEs are members of what's called the Atlassian Champions program. So they're members of our community. Atlassian community is a thing. It's with a capital C. And they're not only do they help us build our exams, but they also evangelize. And a lot of them also lead training to, with the intent of finish this on-demand training or live online training and then go take the exam. So I think having that community built in has been a huge help to us because it's a flywheel motion, right? Where one person will tell five people who will tell five people more and etc.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I think that
Sure.
is all that we have
Okay.
planned and popped up. So, Ruben, if you can just advance one more on that slide. If you do have any questions, if you want to follow up after and discuss anything with our panelists today, you can always find them on LinkedIn, or you
Mhm.
can email us at answers@certiverse.com, and we will get you directed to the right person to answer your questions. But thank you again so much, Ree. We really
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
your help
Thank
and
you,
your
Ree.
partnership always. It's a great insight for folks. So this video will be available, so we will share it out to folks who were here so you can send it on to your teams as well. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ree. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Adrian.